I moved into a quiet suburban neighborhood thinking I had finally found peace. After years of working overtime and saving every extra dollar I could, I was ready to enjoy my dream home. The house sat near a beautiful lake that shimmered in the morning sun. I had been fishing since childhood and I could not believe my luck. A lake right in the neighborhood meant I could spend weekends relaxing with a rod in hand. What I did not realize at first was that the HOA had other plans. The first time I walked down to the water with my fishing gear, I felt like a kid again. The air smelled fresh, and the ripples on the surface looked perfect for base. I cast my line and leaned back in my chair with a smile. An hour later, I had caught 2 small fish, which I released back into the lake. I was packing up when a woman stormed down the path. She introduced herself as the HOA president and told me fishing was not allowed. I laughed because I thought she was joking. The lake was right there, and it seemed natural to use it. But she was dead serious. She shoved a piece of paper at me and explained that I would be fined $50 for breaking HOA rules. At first, I was stunned. I argued that the lake had fish for a reason and that I was not harming anything. She did not care. She gave me a smug smile and told me to pay the fine or face more penalties. I went home angry, but decided to pay the fine to avoid trouble. I thought that would be the end of it, but I was wrong. 2 weeks later, I went out again early in the morning. I figured nobody would notice. This time I caught a huge catfish and was feeling proud. Suddenly, 2 HOA board members walked up with their phones recording me. They told me I was in violation again and that the fine would be doubled. I was furious. I told them the rules were unfair and they just laughed. They said the lake belonged to the HOA and that I had no rights. That night I did some research. I pulled out my laptop and looked up property records. To my surprise, I discovered something shocking. The HOA managed the neighborhood, but they did not own the lake. The lake was technically private land and the owner lived 2 states away. I felt a spark of hope. If I could contact the owner, maybe I could work out something. I tracked down the landowner through public records and gave him a call. He was an older man who had inherited the property from his parents but had no use for it. He rarely visited and had no idea the HOA was acting like it was theirs. I asked if he would be willing to sell, and to my surprise, he said yes. The price was steep, but I had been saving for years. I decided to go all in. I took a deep breath, signed the paperwork, and became the official owner of the lake. The next HOA meeting was something I will never forget. They gathered in the clubhouse with their clipboards and their smug faces. I walked in and sat down calmly. The president started lecturing me about fines again. She waved another notice in my face. I let her finish, then pulled out my own folder. I handed her the deed to the lake and told her that, as of last week, I was the new owner. The room went silent. Her jaw dropped and she tried to tell me it was impossible. I smiled and explained that I had legally purchased the lake. From now on, the HOA had no authority over it. I then dropped the bombshell. Since they had harassed me with unfair fines, I was banning every HOA member from setting foot on my lake. No fishing, no swimming, no picnics, nothing. The lake was mine, and they were trespassers, if they even touched the water. The president turned red and started shouting. She said the neighborhood had always used the lake for events. I shrugged and said that was over now. She threatened to sue, but she had no grounds. The deed was clear. The HOA had lost control. I walked out of the meeting feeling like I had won a war. The next few weeks were hilarious. People came to the lake with kayaks or coolers, only to find my signs posted everywhere. Private property, no HOA access. I even installed cameras to catch trespassers. Some tried to argue, but I showed them the paperwork. Others begged me to reconsider, but I reminded them how they had laughed while fining me. The rules were simple now. Only I and my invited guests could use the lake. One family across the street, who had always been kind to me, asked if they could fish sometimes. They never joined the HOA drama and had even defended me when things got ugly. I told them they were welcome anytime. We spent weekends fishing together and cooking what we caught. The rest of the neighborhood fumed behind closed doors. The HOA president kept trying to fight me. She sent letters and even tried calling the county office. Each time she hit a brick wall. I owned the lake and she had no power. Eventually she gave up attending meetings and the HOA started crumbling. Without the lake, they lost their biggest attraction. People stopped paying dues. Some even moved away. Meanwhile, my property value went up because I now had exclusive lake rights. I built a small dock and bought a canoe. I invited friends over for barbecues and fishing trips. The place that once brought me stress became my sanctuary. Every time I cast my line into the water, I felt a sense of victory. Looking back, I realized the HOA never cared about rules. They cared about control. They wanted power over everyone and assumed nobody would challenge them. But all it took was one bold move to turn the tables. I did not just fight back. I flipped the script completely. The best part is watching them walk past the lake every day knowing they can no longer touch it. Their kids press their faces against the fence wishing they could play near the water. Their parents glare at me but cannot say a word. Justice has never felt so sweet. Some might say I went too far by banning everyone. But I remember the humiliation when they fined me for enjoying something that should have been free. I remember the smug smiles and the laughter. They created this war, not me. All I did was finish it. Today my lake is peaceful. The sun rises and the water sparkles. I sit on the dock with my fishing rod and a cup of coffee. Sometimes I hear the faint sound of kids playing on the street, but the lake remains quiet. It belongs to me and to those I choose. That freedom is priceless. So yes, the HOA fined me for fishing, but in the end I bought the lake and banned the entire neighborhood. And every time I reel in a fish, I cannot help but laugh at how sweet revenge can be.